Keepers and football, fantasy football. Namco here, Dustin there. Not my best opening, I apologize. So get right into our sponsorship, and thank goodness we are back with them.
We are happy to be back with FanDuel, and we're doing some fun stuff this year. So you're gonna wanna sign up if you haven't already. Click on the link in the description, fanduel.com/FST. Sign up, deposit $10 or more. We get credit for the sign up. We get a little love, help keep the channel going. So do that because we're doing a fun thing this year with them. We're doing our own private game, a Beat the Experts game. And if you sign up as a new person, you get a free entry into the Week 1 $1 million contest. And then we're also giving away 5 entries to the Week 2 $1 million Sunday game in our game that we're doing. So if you click on the link in the description for our game, it's a Beat the Experts game. We're all gonna be in there and you can try to beat us. And if you do, you win a shirt that says I beat the experts at Fantasy Smack Talk, and you also win the cash like you would in any tournament. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna do it each week and announce the winner. It's gonna be fun.
Dustin will autograph the shirt.
Whatever you need.
And we'll talk smack or say anything you want us to say, almost within reason, every week as you being the winner on the show, obviously. All right, so we're talking about keepers, and where we came up with this idea is Dustin and I get asked all the time, should I keep him? Or should I keep this guy? Well, this is the cost, or this is what it is, or I don't know what to do, what to look for keepers. He's the best player on my team, so I should just keep him, right? But if it costs you first round, does that make sense? So what we want to do is, first and foremost, when looking at keepers, what are the main things we look at? Well, you got to figure out what is the cost. So when you're keeping somebody, do you automatically lose your first round pick? Or when you keep somebody, is it basically where you drafted them at the exact spot, plus 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds? Is this an auction? Do you get it at that dollar amount, or is there 10 bucks on top, or whatever it may be? So you have to take that all into consideration when doing it. And as a kind of a rule of thumb for us, we love value, absolutely, but we still like the best players too. So first and foremost, if you have a guy, you have a keeper, check his average draft position. If you can keep the guy in the 12th round and typically going into 8th, then that's 4 rounds of value.
Not
so
bad.
you look at it that way. Or if you have a guy that you can keep in the 4th that normally goes in the 2nd, we would typically lean that way for a keeper for the sole reason that that's probably the safer, better player. Hopefully you can keep multiple players. What I really love is having a mix of a couple guys that should be going in like the 5th, 6th round that you can keep in the 14th, and maybe one guy that goes in the 1st or 2nd that you can keep like in the 4th.
So it is about value, but it's not all about value, because I've fallen into this trap myself where, you know, I'm only getting 2 rounds of value with this guy because, you know, he's normally going in the 2nd. I can keep him in the 4th, but I can get this guy who's going in the 6th that I can keep in the 12th. It's like, oh, I want that guy. But in hindsight, I should have gone with the more guaranteed.
Right, that's the thing. It's the question marks.
A lot of people fall into that trap, but typically it's still better to go with the safer pick, even though, you know, it might not be as good of a value technically based on the amount of ADP range that you're dealing with. But one of the things I want to talk about in Keeper League in terms of just in-league strategy, where I see a lot of people make mistakes about right around the trade deadline. People have a pretty good grasp on where their team's headed. You know, do you have a chance at the championship, or are you playing for next year? And that's the fun in keeper leagues, but that's where I also feel like people don't do what they need to do, or lose focus, or just lose interest at that point if their team's not doing well. But depending on how you keep players, a lot of times you can't keep a player that was drafted in the first 2 rounds. If you're looking from the outside in, you need to do a trade. Look at your first 2 picks and look at the team up towards the top and talk about doing a trade. I mean, Brent and I did a trade a few years back.
I was gonna bring this up. I'm surprised you didn't.
This is one that it just shows. Brent was having kind of a rough year. I was having a good year. I had Odell Beckham.
That's the reason you want to bring it up.
I had Odell Beckham. You'll like the end.
I do.
I had Odell Beckham, and he had Dez Bryant. And this was right when Odell was kind of breaking out, but you weren't quite sure yet. And I was going for a championship. I traded for Dez. It probably wouldn't have mattered either way because they both played really well down the stretch. But I won the league. But then Brent got to keep Beckham
as a 14th rounder, and he goes up 1 round every year.
And then he won the next year. So, you know, that's the perfect type of trade, because you need, at that point, Des Bryant meant nothing to him. And
Nope.
he saw a potential to play for next year, and it worked out. And you also need to consider people on the waiver wire that were maybe dropped, that still might have value. Like if a veteran that went on the IR, maybe he gets traded on the offseason into a better situation. Like, you don't, if you're tanking, you don't need a kicker. Like, you don't need, like the last week, just drop all your guys and just fill your bench with anyone that might have even the slightest chance of being a keeper for you the next year, just so you have them on your team.
I had somebody in the league that grabbed Marshawn Lynch last year.
Yeah.
The guy wasn't even playing football, but you know what? It worked out this year for him. So
That's the
something to
perfect
do
example.
also in drafts, in keeper leagues, we always say at Smack Talk, we like young with upside. So make sure in auction, snake drafts, whatever, you have a list of young with upside, because definitely take them over old and reliable late in drafts, So I wrote some names down. So P. Ryan, he's going really late. You can take any of the Williams, Joe, Jamal, whoever, John even. Like I got even like Burkhead for a buck, let's say. 2 quarterback league, who you taking? Who's the guy you love?
Oh, Trubisky.
Yes, so
I
like
love
a
him.
quarterback
He's
league.
gonna be good.
But like that's so key, because if you can get some studs, like again, let's pat myself on the back. I didn't know Dustin was going to do that for the first time ever in his life, so thank you, boss. But a few years ago in an auction league, I got David Johnson and Carr each for a buck.
It's pretty good.
They went up $5 every year, living large. It's a fantastic thing. But that is what's so key, is to know what guys you can get for $1, especially the young guys.
The key is balance, though. Like you all in a keeper league, dynasty league, all that stuff. No matter the settings, you have to have a balance of this year and next year. And too many people are one way or the other, and that's kind of a tricky thing. And something that I've had to adapt to, because I'm always thinking too much about the exciting guy in the future, and I pass on the Larry Fitzgeralds of the world, and a lot of times those are the guys that end up winning you the championship.
And I'm kind of the opposite. I like a win now. So certainly, here's my other thing I got to say. Don't look way too far. If you have a chance to win now, like Dustin did in the trade he talked about, win now.
Go
right?
for it.
It hurts.
Figure out your keepers
And
now.
I poke him, and I'm just like, hey, I love Odell. Thanks for that. And I tell him every year. But you know what? He won the championship that year. So that is what is key whenever you're doing trades later in the
keep
season.
telling myself that every time.
Even though you would have won anyway.
Even though every time
That's
I
what
think
really
about it.
hurts.
Hey, I got the championship
Doesn't matter.
that
You
year.
got the
So that's all that matters. But it's get that balance and just be keeping the keeper aspect in mind at all times. I've even seen people do a trade and then say, "Oh crap, I forgot this is the keeper."
Know
league."
your settings. And know how many rounds up or what the inflation is.
Yeah.
So just in recap, let's just do with the snake draft. When you're looking at it, the key thing you have to do is where you're going to get them compared to where their average draft position is, how much value you have. And also remember, if you're in a league where like 4 people are being kept, then that's like the first 3 rounds are pretty much out as well, that you can add as additional value. So you have to keep that in mind also.
So that's our keeper league stuff. If there's stuff in there that you think we forgot or you wanted to add, put it in the comments. We can start a discussion. Subscribe to our channel.
Or just ask the question, we'll answer it.
Yeah. Thumbs up. And FanDuel. Get on FanDuel. We need your love on that. Yes.
Yes.